Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of round 3 of the 2020 Candidates Tournament. As we did in round 1 and 2, we will have a look at the highlights of all 4 games. These were the standings before the round. I got this screenshot from the broadcast of the St. Louis Chess Club. Half the field is leading the way with 1.5 out of 2. Grishuk is the only player who had drawn both his games. Alexei and Giri are on -1, and the big shock is Ding Ren, losing both of his first 2 games. Round 3 was played on Thursday the 19th of March, and these were the pairings: Ding Ren against Khurana, Giri Graf, Grishuk Wang Hao, and Alexei against Nepomniachtchi. The first game to finish was Giri with the white pieces and Maxime Graf on the black side. Let's take the game from the start. We had a Grunfeld defense by Graf, and we saw the variation with 5 bishop d2. The Grunfeld bishop goes off the board, and here f4. Maxime Graf said after the game, this can get quite dangerous for black if white can play e5, f5 and queen h6. But I found a way to equalize. He played e6 here, bishop c4, b5. That pawn was taken and black took on d5. Bishop back to c4. You cannot take the bishop because your queen is unprotected. So bishop b7 was played, knight f3, and here Giri said after the game that rook d8 was a move that he knew in this position, played by Nepomniachtchi. But knight d7 was played by Graf, and now Giri was on unknown territory. He castled, knight b6, bishop back to e2, and d4, a key move that Graf had thought out to deal with the white threats. e5 hitting the queen, and now queen e7 was a move that Giri had expected and had calculated a lot. And he got excited as he thought he would get the f4, f5 push in with winning chances. But Graf went with the queen to d7 instead. And now he doesn't get f5 in. C takes d4, rook a to d8, rook a to d1, and black has equalized. This is move 20, let's go to move 25. The queens had been exchanged and Giri played here bishop e2 to d1. He explained afterwards to cover the a4 square to make sure black could not play the maneuver knight a4 to c5. If anyone is better here, it's white because of the weak pawn on d4, the isolated pawn. And Giri said maybe there's a way for white to play around the d-pawn and get some chances, but I didn't see it. Let's see the remaining moves of the game. Knight c4 was played, king f2, knight b2, rook d2 saving the rook, knight c4 attacking the rook again, and we saw a move repetition. And after this move, rook d3, the 30th move, the players agreed to a draw. The next game to finish was Alexander Grishuk on the white side and Wang Hao, who had the black pieces. I'll show you the first 10 moves so you can see what opening it was. It was a Petrov defense. Bishop d6, queen e2 check. The bishop interposed, knight g5, and Grishuk took on e6, f takes e6, and this is a theoretical line. The queens were swapped quite early on move 17, and let's jump to move 34. Grishuk was asked by the press officer after the game that it had been quite a boring game. Grishuk disagreed. He said that he had been almost winning in this endgame. But here he felt he made a mistake. The last move was g4, g5 from Grishuk, and he completely had forgotten that black now has a nice trick to achieve full equality with knight e4 check. Grishuk said he had seen this trick before but had forgotten about it at this moment. Wang Hao said that he was very lucky to have this trick as he thought the position was really dangerous for black. Why is this such a nice trick? Can you not just take that knight? You can, but then there is d takes e4, bishop b1 and e3 check with a nice fork, and black will win material. So after knight e4 check, it's not good to take the knight with the pawn, and Grishuk took with the bishop. D takes e4, And now we have an equal rook endgame with 4 pawns each. This is move 35, 5 moves before the time control. The position is not very difficult to play. Let's jump to move 43 to see the end of the game. As we can see, 2 pairs of pawns have been swapped in the meantime. And let's look at the final moves. We get a move repetition at the end. White is giving check to the black king. And after 49 moves, this game ended in a draw. We saw 2 draws that were not too eventful, but this game really was very spectacular. It's Alexeyenko with the white pieces and Nepomniachtchi on the black side. Let's go through the opening moves. We have a French defense by Nepomniachtchi, just putting the opening on the board. Bishop f4, and now Nepomniachtchi thought of playing knight f6, using the pin. That knight cannot be taken, and then he wanted to plant his knight on e4. He thought he had a strategically very promising position out of the opening. He decided in the end not to go for that. He also thought about g5 as an option in this position, or maybe castling queenside, or even a6 with the idea of bishop b5 to try and exchange the light squared bishops, which is always an achievement for black in the French. But in the end he decided against all those moves and played queen c6. That was move 14. Let's jump to move 19. Knight e7 to c6 from Nepomniachtchi. And now white is going to give him up an exchange. That knight is attacking the rook, and Alexeyenko played the queen to e2. Nepomniachtchi said, I'm going to take the exchange. Knight takes b4, a takes b4, and white has compensation. Black has a bad bishop on a4, and Nepomniachtchi's king is still in the center. That's move 21. Let's go to move 25, when Nepomniachtchi played g7, g6. He said that he knew that g5 was the move to play, but he decided to bluff. And he said, if the move g6 will be left unpunished, I can maybe play for an advantage. So a little bluff at the highest level. And here Alexeyenko could have played a beautiful bishop sacrifice with bishop takes g6. He said, it was my idea to take on g6, but I had only 3 minutes on the clock and I could not calculate it till the end. It was quite risky, and it is indeed. For us sitting at home with an engine, we can see that bishop takes g6 is very strong, but it's always easier to sacrifice another man's pieces. It's not so easy to part with your bishop yourself in such a high stakes game. Nepomniachtchi said that he might have castled queenside on this move, but he also had considered f takes g6. Then the variation goes as follows. Queen takes e6 check. Queen e7 is the best move for black. Then queen c6 check. King f7. You have to play that move to make sure the rook on a8 is protected. And now a very difficult move to find. h4, h5. Blowing away the protection around black's king. If you play g5, there is rook e3. And if you take the pawn on h5, there is also rook e3 with a winning position for white. But that was not easy to see 5 moves earlier. And even if you see this position that long in advance, it's not so easy to see that this is indeed winning for white, that black is not able to coordinate his defense. So a missed opportunity for Alexeyenko, but especially that move h4, h5 was very difficult to find. In the game he decided instead of bishop takes g6 on the move h4, h5. That was move 26. Let's move to the 32nd move. a6, a5 was the last move from black. And this game, it will also peter out to a draw. Alexeyenko took on a5, queen takes f7, and Nepomniachtchi infiltrates in white's position with the queen, threatening to take the bishop. But Alexeyenko is not going to do anything about that. He just takes on e6, because after queen takes c2, we have a perpetual check in the position. Like this. The players played on till move 40, and after the 40th move, queen b6 check, the players shook hands, and this game was also drawn. They started the game with the elbow greeting, but after the game they have forgotten about that and just shook hands as they are used to. Here we see it, the elbow handshake before the game and the traditional handshake after the game. That is 3 draws in the tournament table. What about the last game to finish? Ding Liren with white against Fabiano Caruana with black. Ding opened with d4, d5, c4, and we see Slav defense. After the game, Ding said that he had thought about playing c takes d5 here, the exchange Slav. But then he said, that is not my style, I have to play the most critical lines. And he played knight f3. Knight f6, knight c3, black takes in the center, this is all known theory. a4, bishop f5, knight e5, white is going to win the c4 pawn back. e6, f3, bishop b4, there does white win back the pawn. Black castled, king f2, and now the theoretical move here is c6, c5, and white is slightly better. But Khurana plays the other break move, e6, e5. He had prepared this move for this game. Ding took it, and now bishop c2, immediately played by Khurana, who was in his home preparation. If you take that bishop, there is queen takes d4 check, winning the pawn back and winning the piece back because of the double attack. So Ding played queen d2, and now c5, d5, bishop b3, e4, rook e8, attacking the knight, and Ding defends the knight with queen f4. c4, everything still played with lightning speed by Khurana. He had sacrificed a pawn and is now sacrificing a second one. Ding took it, did not shy away out of fear by Khurana's preparation, and a calm developing move from Khurana, knight bd7, being 2 pawns down. He just brings a knight into play, bishop e3, and the knight went to f8. Very spectacular opening play by Fabiano Caruana, but as said, this was all home preparation. But Khurana is 2 pawns down, and where is the compensation? This is move 16. Let's move to the 22nd move, king f2 from f1 from Ding. And here Khurana played a move that was heavily criticized, 8-7, 8-6. The commentators in the different live broadcasts did not like this move, and neither did Anish Giri when he was interviewed. Giri said, h6 is not in the spirit of this position. If you're 2 pawns down, you have to play dynamically. And he said that the a6 and b5 options looked more in the spirit of the position. Let's skip from move 22 to 27. Queen h3 to g3. Ding Liren said after the game that he felt that he was winning at this point, as he can bring his queen to better squares, as we'll see that queen will go through f2 to d4. He felt black no longer had any counterplay for the 2 pawns he's down. Let's see what happened. b4 was played by Khurana. The knight went back to d1. Queen b3. Black is going to at least win one of the pawns back. Rook d2. Queen takes. Queen f2 on its way to d4 as mentioned. Queen back to d7. g3. Queen h3 check. King stepped aside. And a5. Khurana may be hoping that he has some counterplay on the queen side. But queen d4 is a very nice centralizing move from the queen. Knight h5. Knight f2. Attacking the queen. Queen dropped back. And f4. And here Khurana brought a desperate piece sacrifice. He took on f4. G takes and knight takes. King f1 from Ding to enable to get that rook into the game that was still stuck on h1, and then white will have an immediate threat because there's a checkmate threat on g7. White is a piece up for just a pawn, and if he now also gets the initiative, then black is in big trouble. This is move 37. Black is totally lost and Khurana played on for a very long time. Let's have a look at how the game finished. This is the position after 52. Queen takes the rook on f8. That pawn on b2 also disappears off the board, and now white is a piece and 2 pawns up. Still Khurana played on. Queen f4. Rook b8 check. King h7. Queen drop back to c2. Rook e7. Khurana hoping for a miracle, but it was not going to happen. e5 check. The queen is giving check to the king. White also attacks a knight, so knight f5 has to be played to save that piece. Queen e4 offering a trade of queens. A check, king g2, g6 was Khurana's last move because he resigned after rook b3. There really is nothing to play for. Black is just too much material down. A bitter blow for Khurana, but for Ding this is a great boost. After losing the first 2 games, he needed to start scoring points very quickly, and nothing better than to beat one of the leaders who's also the highest rated player in the competition. That leads to these standings after the 3rd round. We have 3 leaders, Vacher Lagrave, Nepomniachtchi and Wang Hao with +1. Khurana dropped down because of his loss. Grishuk on 50% as well with 3 draws. Giri, Alexeyenko and Ding are on -1. Friday the 20th of March will be a rest day, and on Saturday the 21st of March these are the pairings. Khurana, Nepomniachtchi, Wang Hao, Alexeyenko, Vacher Lagrave against Grishuk and Ding against Giri. I will be here after the round to tell you what happened. A big thank you to Ben N there at the bottom left for his very generous donation on PayPal. If you want to support the channel, the PayPal link is in the description box of this video. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like this video, if you like the coverage that I'm doing on the 2020 Canada's tournament, then please share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.